everybody. It is Saturday, January 21st, 2023, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. And today I am joined by Clark Taylor, Anthony Ricciardi, and Coby Galenzoski. We have a four-person episode for the first time in nearly a week. How are you guys?
Doing all right.
Nice.
So stoked to be here. Had my day off yesterday. I played a little golf, teed it up. Perfect weather. It's not raining in SoCal anymore, and I'm just fired up to be back and get right into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, I spoke to you about this the other day, Clark, right? Taking a day away from the show, it just gives you more energy when you return to it. It really, really does. And yeah, it's great to be back with you guys here today. And yeah, I mean, there's a few things we need to get into today, but the first thing that I want to get into was a video sent in to us by one of our other podcasters on the Wrestling Republic YouTube channel, host of the Lions of the Republic New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast, and that is from Ben Wagner. And he, of course, he sent in a video that he's asked us to share about the passing of Jay Briscoe this week, which of course was tragic and affected us all. But Lions of the Republic can be doing their own episode on it. But Ben Wagner wanted us to play this video to start off this podcast today. So here it is.
Hey there everyone, it's Ben here from the Lions of the Republic podcast over at the Wrestling Republic YouTube page. I wanted to send this in to today's daily broadcast to add my sincere sympathy and condolences to those of the rest of the Wrestling Republic team as we keep the family of Jay Briscoe, the friends of Jay Briscoe, in our thoughts and in our hearts. For those who know me well, or those on the Republic team who've spoken to me about it in the past, you will know that the Briscoes are my all-time favourite tag team. I've adored them from the moment I saw the first match of theirs. I saw Suki and I will talk about the legacy of the Briscoes in Japan, the first ever foreign-born GHC Junior Tag Team Champions, all the work they did in New Japan and beyond. So see you there, hopefully.
Yeah, of course. It was, of course, a tragic passing this week. And I'm looking forward to watching that podcast that they're going to be doing, talking about Jay Briscoe's run in Japan very, very shortly. But that, yeah, I mean, obviously it's been a very upsetting time, of course, for everybody at the minute in the wrestling world. And also we're still praying for the full recovery of his daughters as well. But let's get now onto SmackDown. Today's episode, last night's episode of SmackDown, which was actually a really, really good show. And it was based around the tag team division tournament, right? Because they are trying to find the new number one contenders for the Usos now that they've split up the Raw and SmackDown tag team championships, and the Usos have to defend the titles separately. And yeah, they started on last night's episode of SmackDown, a tag team tournament. And it was very interesting to say the least. Actually, honestly, right, this tournament showed me how stacked the SmackDown tag team division is. I was super impressed by it. I was like, I almost didn't realize how many great tag teams that the SmackDown roster even had. And I'm like, why does the tag team division feel stale if you got these many great tag teams in it? It really confused me, quite frankly. But this tag team tournament was very fun. It was a very fun evening of tag team wrestling. But it kicked off with Drew McIntyre and Sheamus, the Banger Bros, not to be mistaken with an X-rated website. No. The Banger Bros faced the Viking Raiders. It sounds worse by the minute, doesn't it? But I wasn't a fan. I talked about this in yesterday's show. I wasn't a fan of this match happening purely because neither team could take a loss. Unless you were going to split McIntyre and Sheamus, which I think is a bit early to do. But the Viking Raiders, you've been building them up. You brought back Sarah Logan, now known as Valhalla. And it was just awful. Neither could lose. It frustrated me a lot. And the Viking Raiders did lose the match, but it was an absolute banger. The Banger Bros lived up to their name. It was a fantastic opener to start off the night. But it's just, Oh, I don't know. The Viking Raiders, where do they go from here, really? What do you think, Anthony?
I mean, that's the thing. It was a hard-hitting match, but you knew, like, oh, okay, they're going against Sheamus and Drew. There's no way they're having Sheamus and Drew lose this. But it was a hard-hitting match, which I really did enjoy the match. And I really did appreciate the fact that, they made mention of Jay Briscoe during SmackDown, which is probably something they wouldn't have done under Vince's control. But it was nice that they did that, in honor of Jay.
Yeah. What did you think about the match, Clark?
I didn't have an issue with the match itself, but like to your point earlier, the booking. I feel like Sheamus and Drew are so strong on their own. I don't mind them having the partnership for some of the things like the War Games stuff, the feuding with the Bloodline, and things like that. But I don't necessarily think they need to be involved in the tag division. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's two guys that are too strong on their own two legs. And I do also want to add, I know it was a few minutes ago or whatever, but like, boy, was that a beautiful tribute from Ben Wagner, and can't wait to see that episode of Lions of the Republic. That was really cool. But the McIntyre and Sheamus thing, I love both guys so much, and the match was excellent, yes. But to your point, the Viking Raiders didn't really need to lose. And while, yes, they looked strong for parts of last night, they still took the loss. Yeah. And it's like, and I agree with you on the depth of the tag division is so interesting. And I think even Raw's tag division is deeper. I mean, Alpha Academy, the Street Profits, it's
OC.
Gallows and Anderson. Yes. Right. Like it takes you a minute to even get there. And then you start to go with the not thrown together, but right. You have the Judgment Day pairing and things like that. I think both are equally strong. And where do the New Day fit in? Which show are they even on? I guess SmackDown technically, right? Obviously we saw them on NXT for a while, so that was more of a joke. But like, you know what I mean? There's plenty of teams. I think, and while it was great for the Bloodline storyline, the commandeering of both belts hurt our own perception of the tag divisions themselves, because we just saw the Usos and whoever was the number one contender at the time and didn't really look beyond that, because there wasn't much mid-card tag action per se that had relevance to the titles week to week. They're just, you know what I mean? We have all these great teams, but they aren't wrestling each other. They're involved in these 6-man or 6 trios affairs. They're involved in rivalries with faction type things. And so like I've even talked about in the past, the thrown together group to challenge the group that has a name. It doesn't, I've never been that. And I that is muddy the tag division in a way that makes things difficult. And that's, I think, why, because I totally agree with the being shocked about how deep the tag division is on the, it's on both sides. It's deeper than we realize. And it's just a matter of utilizing that booking wise, I think, to bring that to the week to week product,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, it's a good point actually you made. I was thinking at the time, I was like, yes, okay, the New Day are currently on SmackDown. No, sorry, they're currently on NXT with having, the NXT tag team titles, but still, they are on the SmackDown brand. Why aren't they in this tournament? Why aren't they trying to become double champions? But I know obviously the reason for that is because they don't want the NXT champions to lose or whatever. But yeah, that was a point I thought about when I was watching this. But the thing is, the Viking Raiders have been booked awfully so far on the main roster, right? They just not been. It's been bad from the start. And bringing back Sarah Logan was meant to be, the revival almost of them. And their revival has just led to them losing in the first round. It wasn't like it was the final. They lost in the first round to McIntyre and Sheamus. It kind of has frustrated me, in all honesty. But what do you think, Coby?
So last Sunday we ended up doing the tier maker or the tier list of the returns, and yes, we kind of ranked this one low. It was either I don't think it was very bottom because that was where Hit Row went, but then we did say they went below mid, and I think that is honest. Like, it's honesty, is the booking is not good. And a lot of the things I see is there was a lot of focus on the tag team wrestling, and the tag team division of this aspect and on this show. And a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, well, Vince is in control again." Well, Vince would never spend at least half the show to the tag division. He would never do that. He would have never done the gauntlet match on Raw. That was a 50-minute match where Damian Priest got to be Damian Priest and be how great he is. But I agree with the point that Clark made of the depth wasn't there because we never focused on it. Because when the Usos unified the belts, then there was the Profits, then they kind of did the stuff with the Brawling Brutes, and then they never really put much focus on the other teams aside from the Usos in that. But I guess a year ago, I think this was almost needed. Now you can very much handle a two tag titles on winning each brand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is the complete right decision to separate the tag team titles. I really, really do. Even though the Usos are great, and there's no knock on them. It's just there's so many other great tag teams too. But you very briefly mentioned them, and I'll mention them again now. Talking about tag teams who I don't want to say are not great, because it's too harsh, right? But like you said, they were the bottom of our tier list for returns last week, and they did not look good last night. Specifically Top Dollar did not look good last night. Hit Row beat Los Lotharios, and honestly, right, Hit Row have been mid since coming back, in the words of MJF. Nothing special at all, and it's Top Dollar didn't look great last night. I'll say it again, but Los Lotharios, right? I think they should be getting booked a bit better than they have been. They shouldn't be being squashed by Hit Row in 2 minutes something, or otherwise it might be 3 minutes. They are a really good tag team. And it's annoyed me that they were booked awful under Vince and they were just chucked together. But under Triple H, they've also done nothing. In ring wise, they're great. They have a good banter together. I think it looks good on television. But it's still, they're just not getting any TV time. And I think it's disappointing. And considering I thought both of them were somewhat Triple H guys, I'm slightly surprised by it almost. What would you say, Anthony?
I mean, I'd say the same thing. They've always been talented. It's a shame because they have the talent, but there's still no direction with a lot of these talents. And I think that's a problem. I mean, the tag division has never been a priority for the company, at least under Vince. And it looks like Hunter wants to try to do something with it, which is a good thing. But I want to see more out of creative when it comes to some of these talents. I really do. I mean, Hit Row I'll be honest, I've never been a fan of theirs. And since they've come back, they haven't done anything to change my mind on that. Especially Top Dollar, who I don't think is very good at all. So I'm curious to see if this push to tag team wrestling sticks or if it's just, a flavor of the month.
Yeah. I mean, I really hope it is because the tag team division the last couple of weeks on both brands has been really, really good. But yeah, I mean, I don't want us to hate on Top Dollar too much, but he just did not look good last night. He really didn't. He
really never does.
It's really interesting, though. Did you watch not to cut you guys off, but did you guys watch the Lost Treasure show that he hosted?
Yes.
No.
I thought he was fantastic on that show.
He's fine on that.
And so charismatic and like really good. And I get right, like it's different, but he really stood out to me on that show. I thought he was a phenomenal host. So I was like, really, I thought you have that on top of the NFL talent athletically. How can he not translate to pro wrestling? But I don't get it. He just seems to not be able to figure it out. And it seems like, to me at least, Swerve was so much more valuable to that group than we realized when they were over in NXT. He really was. Because he just is he gave that extra like legitimacy because he could go bell to bell and then even musically too. Not that AJ's not solid musically, but Swerve really did have the right. You'd see pictures of Swerve at the Grammys. You'd see picture of Swerve in these places. So like covering that niche, right? I think Swerve but to your point, Anthony, I have nothing for the current iteration of Hit Row as a 3-person group. It's just not. It doesn't do it. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
I mean, bringing people back is one thing, but if you're not bringing them back with a real purpose and they don't deliver, then there's no point of it ever bringing them back in the first place. And that seems to be the problem with the bulk of the people that Hunter has brought back, where they've been brought back and they're either not delivering or creative is just not there to make me want to care.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely true. That you're spot on with it. And I mean, well, the thing is, I'm beginning to understand why Vince released them. In the fact of when they were called up, Vince, well, I mean, wrongly didn't think that Swerve looked like a star. I disagree with that completely, but he thought that and thought that Top Dollar was the one out of them that looked like the star. So then he put on the person who looked like a star and pushed him. And Vince clearly saw what we're seeing now, that very quickly he was not good enough. And I mean, that's, I guess, why he had to pull the plug on them. But I mean, in reality, he should have just given Swerve that spot. But yeah, there's only so much, you can do about it. But I really do just hope Los Lotharios get an opportunity, because it's frustrating to me. What do you think, Coby?
I think you're in the position of, like we said, there's not a lot of people who have direction, and there's the people who have the direction. And then there's still how much underneath that are like, oh, they have some, but they're not doing too much with them. Like Viking Raiders got the repackage, got the addition to the new character. They haven't done. They did the post show attack on the Drew and Sheamus, and then they did the match, and then they lost. Like, where did they go from here? Where did Drew and McIntyre go from here? I think they're going to be in the finals of the tag bracket, whether that's against Legado or Imperium. We'll get to both of those teams later. But I think at the end of the day, yes, we saw Hit Row. But then again, the first domino to fall was BFAB under Vince. And then it was just like, I think they appeared once or twice, and then they fully just got rid of them. Yeah. At the end of the day, Vince never gave them a shot to begin with. Yes, he thought, Top Dollar's the star, probably because, big guy, Tommy, he has the size, and we know Vince's opinions about that, and he likes the big men. Mm. But I think, yeah, exactly. Swerve, nobody doubted Swerve's ability to be a valuable asset, and nobody doubted Swerve being a key component to the Hit Row operation, if you want to call it that. Returning them without him, and I'm gonna make it this as a slight comment. Returning them without him instead of just replacing Swerve with someone from NXT, like
Carmelo.
Yeah, exactly. Theoretically, you could go with Carmelo or Trick. Then you got the issues of, well, that's just putting him in the position because of something.
Yeah.
I like, that's the thing. I wouldn't have brought him back. I thought the first 2 months, September, I guess there's from August to like mid-October, they were doing good. They were in the spot they were doing. They weren't blowing off the chart, but they were filling the spot to a degree. I said this before, and I went to the live event before Extreme Rules. I saw the Maximum Male Models versus Hit Row. He got one of the biggest pops of the night, lifting both of them on his shoulders. And I'm not going to say this is his fault or anything. I think they really need to refine him. Hit Row, not Shit Row. They really need to refine it and say, this is what you need to do. As a face, you could build them up as this is the big guy who gets the big power spots. Ashante's as talented as he is. Right now, they have yet to refine and do that fine-tuning. And I think that needs to be happening because this is a similar issue that Karrion Kross has. Is Karrion Kross's character phenomenal? His in-ring stuff isn't clicking.
Yeah. No, that is straight up facts with that. Perhaps even send them back to NXT and just let them develop a bit more there. I mean, I wasn't...
Even then, I'll just say this. Even then, I said this however many weeks ago, and I'll put myself back on the main thing. I said this however many weeks ago. Alpha Academy in NXT, chef's kiss. Los Lotharios in NXT, chef's kiss.
Oh, absolutely. And I wasn't even going to talk about Legado, to be honest, because their match, right, was a squash. They just squashed Maximum Male Models. Zelina was the highlight, being on commentary. She was very good on commentary, as per usual. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what Legado have got to do next. But the one match which I did want to talk about was Imperium versus the Brawling Brutes. Not quite as long as the opening tag match, but still was extremely fun. As you'd expect from these four guys, Imperium, of course, got the victory, and they could well go all the way in this tournament. I believe. I think it'll be between them and McIntyre and Sheamus, or perhaps Legado, who knows. But the question that I actually have for you guys is, what is the plan for Butch? He's still called Butch. They don't seem to be doing a turn. He just seems to be completely stale, and considering he's young, it just seems like they're wasting him now, because I thought this was meant to be Triple H's guy. What do you think, Clark?
I seriously would have preferred that they flipped the booking and had Imperium beat Sheamus and Drew to set up maybe him and or either of those two with Gunther again, maybe Drew and Gunther, and then had the Brawling Brutes, Butch and Ridge, go over on the Viking Raiders, unfortunately, who I guess they had to be sacrificed there, but I would rather see them get the push, because that makes sense to me. I don't understand why we're still calling him Butch. I don't understand. Maybe we get, I mean, heck, maybe we get him leaving the Brutes for Riddle's return to the Broserweights again. I'm kidding. But yeah, I don't understand it. Why are we still calling him Butch? We gave him his gear back. Also, they're a tag team basically at this point. It makes more sense with Sheamus as the leader and Ridge and Butch as the tag team of the Brutes. Even if you're going to call him Butch, we all know it's Pete Dunne. Doesn't matter. I would rather have had them get this push in the tag division. I don't understand why McIntyre and Sheamus need a tag push. You're talking about two guys that are so established as legit mid to main event talents. And why aren't they in that mix? It doesn't make sense to me there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's actually quite annoying to me, right? Because when it comes to Butch in the SmackDown Tag Team division, you are not building him up slowly to make him, better for a singles run eventually, or better for a turning on Sheamus, something, and getting him over. You're not, every single week he's looking more just like, a lower mid card talent, because the position he's in.
They book him like the Tasmanian Devil.
You're not building him up in the slightest. It's honestly just so frustrating to me in every single way. I don't know what the plan is for Butch. I don't know why his name still is Butch. I don't know why the turn hasn't happened yet. I don't know why they're not building at least to a turn. It's just completely, you're just making him look worse. And he was somebody who was young, got so much potential, and he was meant to be a Triple H guy. It really does upset me, because a couple of years back, he was maybe my favorite wrestler in the world. And it is very, very annoying to see that, and also to see that not much is happening with Tyler Bate in NXT as well, which I understand there's visa problems and all that as well. But it's still him and Tyler Bate I thought were going to be two top stars in the company, and it's really not looking that way. But as the NXT UK, as you were the NXT UK reviewer, Coby, what are your thoughts on how Butch is being treated now?
I'll say it before and I'll say it again. They introduced him under Sheamus saying, "You know him as someone else. We know him as Butch." At the end of the day, that planted the seeds for however long after for you to say, "Oh, my name's not Butch," or "My name's Pete Dunne," blah blah blah. I think from a standpoint of, unless you were going to do that story of him turning, or him being turned on and him resorting to his name, it makes no sense for him to just become Pete Dunne. Austin Theory to Austin Theory, that's different from Butch to Pete Dunne, because it's two completely different names. Theory to Austin Theory, you added a name. Riddle to Matt Riddle, you added a name. Ciampa to Tommaso Ciampa, you just added a name. You didn't change much else. At the end of the day, I do kind of agree. He's in the position of just another guy of the roster. But I think that's the thing. He was a Triple H guy at the end of the day. He's a Triple H guy at the end of the day. And he is so young. But you also don't have to use him as a top star in the next year. You can build him. Once you separate him, you can build him. You have time on your you have the advantage of time under his belt. And as of right now, he's not being presented as a top guy. He shouldn't be, because he's not a top guy right now. He's not.
No, but
At the end of the day, he has the ability to be. Tyler Bate has the ability to become a future just top underdog who has the ability and talent as an underdog. We've seen him versus Gunther. He can work with a big guy. He gave Braun Breaker probably his best match of his career. At the end of the day, I think it's still chess while playing checkers. He understands and he knows how good of a talent they are. I don't know, I guess I'm just going all over the place here. But Shayna Baszler worked in NXT. She's not working on the main roster. I don't know if that effect happens with Pete Dunne. I don't, but I think Pete Dunne's more versatile in the ring than Shayna Baszler.
Here's the thing when it comes down to it, though, right? Butch, it's not like a Sami Zayn Roman Reigns situation where, like, you know, he's under Sheamus and Ridge Holland, whatever, and they're building him up slowly for a potential turn. They're just not been building anything. He was at first just completely mental off the chains, then they dropped that. Now he's not quite. And also, if he had an issue with being called Butch, then as time goes on, now it's been like a year. Like, it's like, okay, I don't know if it's been a year, but it's not too far off it, I don't think. But the more time goes, it's like, well, if you had an issue with this, why don't you bring it up, months ago if it's such a big issue to you? Like, I think as time goes on, it's harder to make a case for him being upset about that. But what do you think, Clark?
So I would say, and not to try to make like a full counterpoint here, but I would be less inclined to blame Pete Dunne or Butch himself for this, because I associate him as much with NXT UK as I do his current NXT class that he was in, because of what he did with the Bros. I associate him with the Riddle, and that class of call-ups to the main roster almost, even though he was later than that, right? Because he was a broserweight and because of his time in NXT, Austin Theory, guys like that were called up during this time. And I would say, look, so, I mean, Butch has been booked as Butch underneath the Brawling Brutes immediately booked underneath Sheamus, right? As lesser than. I don't want to call him a lackey, but right? He was not booked as equal to Sheamus, right? It's not the Shield where all three, right? There's a clear leader in that Brutes group. You know what I mean? And it's not Pete Dunne. And then you look at Austin Theory, he's had 2 name changes, 3 gimmick changes, and every opportunity in the world. And I'd be more inclined to blame the booking on, I don't want to say wasting Butch, but burying Butch underneath people than I would be to blame Pete Dunne himself for his performance. I don't think Pete Dunne's done a bad job in a single segment. With what he's been given, he's excellent every single time. He's pure violence, even when they made a joke out of him. It was well executed, and him being a threat never went away. He was always, right? He was never getting squashed, or even when the joke was how crazy he was and he was attacking people randomly, he was still attacking them and still aggressive, but he just hasn't had the same level of opportunity as, I mean, even Riddle has had, right? He was Matt Riddle. They changed all of that. He got paired with Randy Orton as equals and carrying the tag team titles. As much as he was the butt of that joke, right? He and Orton were. Butch has never had that opportunity with Sheamus, or maybe Ridge Holland and him are considered equals as a tag team, but Butch has been put in a position where he's underneath as kind of like a crazy heelish character. And I would actually argue even that what he's done with that is impressive to me and shows you just how good he is, because he manages to stay relevant with so little that he's given as far as opportunity. And I mean, have we seen a Pete Dunne singles match? It's one of the best singles wrestlers I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen him wrestle a singles match on SmackDown. Give him 20 minutes. You don't think he and Chad Gable can put on a match of the week quality match? I mean, honestly, right? or somebody else on SmackDown. It doesn't have to be Gable, but I'm just saying, like, he's got to have a shot before we can write him off as far as, not being fit for the main roster.
Yeah, no, I absolutely do agree with you there. What are your thoughts on all of this, Anthony?
Okay, the only way to really build Butch up or Pete Dunne, whatever you want to call him, into a credible star, I think there's one or two ways. Either one, whenever they do this draft, you break him away from them and really kind of build him up as a mid-card guy, or put him in a feud with Gunther. They have history. Gunther can make some comment. Where's the real Pete Dunne? And you could do stuff with that and break him off that way and have a feud between the two of them for the Intercontinental title. It'll bring value to the title, and it'll certainly elevate Butch above, crazy person or whatever gimmick they're working with here. I think that's the only way you're going to be able to do it, is either you completely break him away or you have Gunther unlock classic Pete Dunne. I don't see any other way to make him relevant right now unless you repackage him completely, take him off TV. But if you're keeping him on, that's the only way I see you being able to do it.
Yeah, no, it is a very difficult situation to for them to maneuver going forward. But the Gunther idea you said, that could be one way in which they do actually bring Pete Dunne out.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think the one thing that I do like what Anthony said about either do Gunther or the draft, and I think he could go it either way. Well, he could go with the idea was like, well, as a part of his crew, I was Butch. Now I'm Pete Dunne as himself. At the end of the day, I think one thing that might have played into fact, but it's been a good fact because we've seen the career resurgence of Sheamus. Sheamus in the pandemic was one of the biggest key components of. He wrestled almost every week, and he entertained and was good every single week. He's finally had this organic face turn. Yes, Clash at the Castle being in Cardiff helped, but I think that almost puts it away because how from the Brawling Brutes either kicking Butch out or doing something out, you can't do that if they're face. So that this is an organic wrench that you could say it is in the plans of now you really can't, unless you're going to turn the Brutes heel again and then they're going to go, or at least Sheamus and Reg heel and then they're going to turn heel on Butch. You can't have Butch split as a heel. He's going to turn on the Brutes, turn heel and become Pete Dunne. I don't think that makes sense because if you're going to go with the whole idea of I was Butch, or you called me Butch, I'm Pete Dunne, blah, blah, blah. You can't do that if you're a face because then it's there's no sympathy to be had. So I think that organic wrench does exist.
Yeah, you'd certainly have to be a real heel to with Sheamus in order to do that. But I mean, there's a few ways you could do. If you did turn Butch heel, maybe him having a similar thing to MJF's turn, where then he creates his own faction. I think that would have to be the only way you could do it, make him come across as a real bad guy. But we were going to talk about Bray Wyatt because some interesting things happened with him last night. The Firefly Funhouse is back. However, we have quite a few interesting points on it, so we're going to move that to tomorrow's show because right now we have a lot to talk about on the Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens contract signing. Now, for those of you guys who didn't watch SmackDown last night, Roman Reigns early on in the show got quite sick of Sami Zayn quite quickly, really. He basically kicked him out of the locker room, said that I don't need to tell you what the plan is. Get out. As Sami Zayn left, Paul Heyman then very nervously said to Roman Reigns, he was like, you don't want him outside the castle pissing in. You want him inside the castle pissing out, especially when Kevin Owens is in the picture. Roman Reigns listened to the advice, called Sami Zayn back in, sorted things out. Sami Zayn was super happy about it. But that's not where it gets interesting. Where it gets interesting is Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa came out to sign the contract. And Roman Reigns sat at the head of the table as per usual, and they were waiting for Kevin Owens. Kevin Owens comes from behind, takes out Solo Sikoa, takes out Roman Reigns. The Usos come down. He takes out the Usos. He goes back in the ring and then power bombs Roman Reigns through the table. Wow. This was actually, I mean, one of the only segments I think where Roman Reigns has been completely taken out since he's held the championship. It was really, he just took out the bloodline completely, Kevin Owens there. He looked really strong in this segment for sure. And then eventually, after Roman Reigns is already through the table, then comes out Sami Zayn looking all upset and shocked. However, he doesn't get in the ring to take out Kevin Owens. He just stares him down. Kevin Owens throws a contract at him, and then Kevin Owens is out of there. Sami Zayn then does the thing where he chases him for a second, but he barely chases him. Kevin Owens is up off into the stands. And basically, the speculation on social media today from fans is that has Sami Zayn turned on Roman Reigns? When he got kicked out of that office, did he make a deal with Kevin Owens? Is the wheels already in motion for that turn? Did Roman Reigns turn the honorarius against him? What do you think, Anthony? As I know you're a huge fan of this storyline.
Yes. First off, the final shot of KO in the crowd I thought was a phenomenal shot to close SmackDown with. The turns happening soon. Whether it's the rumored KO and Sami going for the tag titles, presumably at Mania, it's going to happen soon. I thought it was kind of interesting in the locker room, during all those meetings with Sami, the Usos and Solo were not in the locker room. So, aren't they supposed to be in the same shared bloodline locker room? Where were they during all this? I did find it interesting that, Paul said, I never liked him. I'm curious if that's going to play a role because obviously it was on TV. So, I am curious to see what they do with it. Whether the turn happens at the Rumble. That will be interesting to see what happens, to see where they're going with that. Because I don't know how you drag it out further to Mania after what happened last night. I don't know how you drag that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, right. I'm going to quickly actually jump into this now because you made a great point. I know you said it for a while, Anthony, that you thought that Sami Zayn should be able to want to take the title off him. And
That's a possibility, yeah. If it's not Coby, yeah.
Soul said on yesterday's show that he thinks that Sami Zayn should, and Soul actually went quite extreme with it and said that he thinks the only way this storyline will actually pay off is if Sami Zayn wins the title, right? But I'm not gonna lie, after this episode, I'm really, really, really thinking that Sami Zayn, that they need to find a way to get this to go to Mania and have Sami Zayn win the championship there. And I think there is actually a way to do it because we've been saying all along that it's going to happen at Elimination Chamber because it's in Canada. Well, actually, you could change it slightly, right? You could. There's a few things you could do. One of them is split the Roman's tag team titles and be like, well, somebody's won the Royal. Cody, for example, has won the Royal Rumble. Then you say, okay, well, we're doing Cody versus Reigns at Mania, but then Cody's like, well, I only want to challenge one of the titles, and everyone's like, why?
Cody wants the WWE title because that was the one that was denied his father. So Sami going for the Universal. You could do that.
So then there's an open slot at WrestleMania. So then well, what can we do? An Elimination Chamber match to see who faces for the other title in Canada at Elimination Chamber. Who's in that match? Sami Zayn. Is that the way that Sami Zayn earns the shot? Does he have to, go through the chamber in order to win it? And I think it would work fantastically. I really do think that is what you should do now.
Especially if the rumors are true, the Rock thing fell through. If that is legitimate and you're looking for somebody to face Roman, Sami could be the guy, Cody could be the guy. Either one of them, I think fans would be okay with. But if you're splitting the belts, then yeah, I would much rather see Sami get a world title as opposed to him just getting the tag titles with KO. I think you could do both, really.
Or even the rub and the loss, right?
Have KO and Sami essentially dismantle the bloodline, taking all their belts. Would be the ultimate revenge for Sami.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. And somebody's saying here that Sami Zayn won't win the belt because of Crown Jewel. Well, no, he'll drop it before Crown Jewel if that's an issue, right?
Or
I don't think.
or that title just won't be on the line at Crown Jewel.
Yeah.
If they're
Well,
splitting
that's true. That's true. That is a good point. But I don't think Sami will have a long reign regardless.
No, I don't think so either. But I think you could do it. There's a story there. I wouldn't mind if they do the official. They're supposed to do the segment, I guess, where he's no longer honorary. I would love to see a segment with that where he's like, no, screw you. I don't give a shit about your honorary use. That's his turn because the bloodline thinks they're going to turn on Sami and Sami screws them over and turns on them. That would be a smart play to do it too with KO.
So, Anthony, what I was going to say is I think also one of the things that's most underutilized these days in wrestling is the outnumbered babyface, which is what Sami slowly become, outsmarting, pulling the rug out from under the heel group somehow. And if he has some up his sleeve when they're going to scorn him, that's where my thought no matter what they do, headed to Chamber or headed to Mania, that the true over baby face, the crowd chants Sami, that over organically, right? And man, that moment where everyone's in the ring and he's one step ahead of the bloodline for the first time because he's been one step behind, he's been one t-shirt behind, he's been all the way through.
Yes.
And he flips the script on him. That's the moment I think most looking forward to. And however they execute that, I think deeply affects the way I love the Chamber idea to separate and now you have a night 1 title match and a night 2 title match, or however you'd like to handle that for Mania. I have no issue with that. I love that too. And Sami being put over in Canada like that would be incredible. But yeah, I want him to outsmart him one time. All of a sudden, Sami's one step ahead. Wait a minute. The guy that's been one step behind the whole way is from the inside because he's been on the inside one, and that's how they've got to kind of play that part of it out. I think to now Kevin did, the got him on Roman with the powerbomb last night, but it'll be different if Sami, his old minion does it. That's right. It's one thing when your rival, it would be
huge. Coby, do you want to finish us off then? What's your thoughts on this topic?
I think Sami Zayn, something clicked in Sami Zayn. This is always going to happen. There's always going to be something. It's not going to be all hunky-dory, if you want to call it that. Something that came to my mind, and I don't know if it's the right way to say it or not, but what Sami Zayn doing something at the Rumble to cost either Roman and Kevin Owens at the same time starts something, because you could have him get both kicks on both of them, and then he's the one to put Roman over Kevin Owens to have Kevin win, or not Kevin win, to have Kevin lose and Roman retain the title. Then it's more of a either I owe you, and then Roman's going to be pissed because I call the shots, you don't call the shots. You can go with not your Mania, but you can go with your Chamber main event being Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Winner faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Sami gets the big victory, and Sami faces Roman at WrestleMania. Of course, assuming that falls out, because if Rock fell out, the two matches that should be happening is Roman versus Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins versus Cody. And you should be separating at least one title from Roman Reigns. If it's Adam Pearce doing something, it's Adam Pearce doing something. Something's got to happen.
One of the things they did, and they only did it one time, which was at WrestleMania 16. Kurt Angle had both the European and Intercontinental titles at the same time. They did a 2-fall match. The first fall was for the Intercontinental, and the second one was for the European. It was a triple threat. Kurt, Jericho, and Benoit. And Kurt lost both titles and wasn't involved in the pin for either one. They could, in theory, do a triple threat at Mania with both titles on the line with Cody and Sami in it.
Although that actually is a very good way of thinking about it. Or even they could do somehow they could get Rollins. I don't know how they could do that. They could do Rollins Cody for what Rollins Cody Roman for one title, and then for the other one Sami Roman or something like that. That would be super interesting and a way to diversify it. But thank you everybody for tuning in to this episode today. It's been a really fun episode. And thank you to Coby, Clark, and Anthony for joining me here. And we're going to be back at the same time tomorrow. Great show, guys. And tomorrow we'll get onto that Wyatt subject. Don't you guys worry. Thank you for everybody tuning in. And please leave us a like and a comment. Thank you.